Welcome to the Mindset Show. I'm your host Daksh Jindal, and each week I'll bring you an inspiring person or a message to help you develop a strong mindset and good habits. Thanks for spending some time with me today, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hi, guys. First of all, thank you very much for showing this love and support for the Mindset Show. With this episode, I'm starting a new series called The Mindset of the Greatest Indians. Imagine knowing how Bhagat Singh dealt with overthinking, or how Atal Bihari Vajpayee kept going despite losing so many times, or how Mahatma Gandhi ji dealt with negative thoughts, or how did Subhash Chandra Bose deal with self doubt. What were their habits and daily rituals that we can apply in our own lives? Sounds exciting, right? In history, we have learned so much about their contributions, but never about their mindset and psychology. This will be the purpose of this new series. I will go deep into the mindset, fears, negative emotions of these greatest Indians by interviewing people who have been studying them for years. These interviews will reshape the way you think about yourself and your life and help you take your small steps to fight these negative thoughts and maybe become the greatest Indian yourself. As the only difference between us and them were their actions and their mindset. We will try to demystify both to implement them in our lives. The first interview is with Dr. Christu Das from Jawaharlal Nehru University, who will talk about the first greatest Indian in this series named MS Golwalkar. He was the founding father of a very strong and popular organization we know as RSS. Golwalkar'S writings and work still inspire thousands of modern Indians, including the biggest political party in India right now, the BJP. No, this podcast won't be about if BJP is right or wrong, or if Golwalkarji was right or wrong. No, we won't judge him or any historical figure for their ideologies. Instead, we will learn from his daily routine, his mindset, on how he overcame the pain of losing so many people in his life and he still kept working hard. How he made a career change courageously without thinking about the society, and how becoming a monk helped him in his life, and why did he stop becoming a monk and ended up as an inspiring leader for thousands of people that followed him. His story will lift you from the shallow worries about why did this other person say this to me, why am I not being successful, etc., etc., and make you think about life in a different way. I hope you learn from his mindset and daily routine as much as I did, and you end up applying just one thing from this podcast to start your journey towards becoming the greatest Indian. Also, I would recommend you to listen to this episode on 1.5x speed to make the episode more enjoyable for yourself. So, let's start. So one thing that I read about MS Gowalkarji was, as a child, he was one of the only surviving sons for his parents. So as a child, he must have gone through a lot of pain and grief when he lost his siblings. How did Gowalkarji deal with his childhood? What drove him to get out of that grief? Because as I said, today's generation, they go through a breakup and they think they've lost everything in life. But here we have a legendary leader who's contributed so much to literature, who's contributed so much to Indian history. He lost his siblings. How did he deal with this? How did he come out of this? What was his psychology at that point in time? If you could enlighten us with that.
I think it's very interesting question. Um, as we read from some of the works, particularly the works by Jyotirmaya Sharma, one of the critics of M.S. Golwalkar, through his work Terrifying Vision, M.S. Golwalkar, RSS, and India. And through other literature, we find that he was born in 1906, at a very important period in the history. And secondly, we do not know exactly what happened to the 8 siblings and the cause of their death. But what is interesting is, as the only surviving son, he was able to do his studies he was able to do his bachelor's in zoology, MSc in zoology. And what I think is important is he had a wonderful parents.
Okay.
His father was a teacher, a schoolmaster, and mother, I think, was a housewife. And whenever she gets up, mother gets up in the morning, and she would wake him up with beautiful devotional songs.
Okay. She used to sing those?
Yes, she used to sing songs, and she used to narrate stories from the scriptures.
Okay.
And I find, therefore, that could perhaps one of the very, very important seed in his early life, childhood, that he was able to have a passion for spirituality.
Yeah.
So the spirituality is one thing, and now people later used to call him as a guru, guruji, right? As a spiritual leader. And even when his mother used to, make fun of him, you have to marry him after his job when he was in his 20s. He would say that my marriage is not important. My nation is important. My people is important. So I am destined for, serving my motherland. And mother also finally was forced to listen. So finally he was remain a bachelor. He was able to visit so many places. But another important thing, in addition to his mother's role, he always had a passion for leaders,
Okay.
nationalist leaders. For example, Madan Mohan Malviya, or Tilak, for example, or Aurobindo Ghosh, for example, or Lala Lajpat Rai, and Bipin Chandra Pal, and most importantly, Vivekananda, Swami Dayananda sir.
Okay.
So, when he was doing his studies in Benares Hindu University, of course, it was founded by Madan Mohan Malviya, and now we can proudly say this is the largest residential central university in Asia, BHU.
Okay.
So, BHU always attracted great minds like Golwalkar. And Madan Mohan Malviya was also able to learn many things about Golwalkar, not necessarily through Golwalkar, but his students. The kind of rapport that he was able to create among his students as a passionate teacher. So the students also used to call him as a guru, Guruji. So the title now we use as a Guruji, Golwalkar, popularly known as Guruji, was not given by any political leader. So he earned it for himself through his students. And Madan Mohan Malviya, as a nationalist leader, as a Hindu Mahasabha leader, once he was a part of Congress, therefore he also was able to, share some of his experiences about why there is a need to serve the nation, to serve the motherland. And therefore, one of the great inspiration that he got at this point in time when he was in
University. Yeah, university. But
I think from Madan.
but before university, when he was a child, like did he read biographies? Did he read did he read about the leaders? How did he actually was there something that pushed him into that serving attitude, that he wants to serve the nation as a child, as a teenager? Was there any influence on him?
I think it's very important. There are two things which I have to say here. As a child, he was a voracious reader.
He was a
Voracious reader. And what we read from various sources is that he was passionate in reading literature, because his father was, as I told you, teacher, headmaster, because he was posted in different places, Hindi-speaking places. Nagpur in those times was part of Madhya Pradesh. And therefore, language was not a barrier. So what we hear from Ramachandra Guha's work, the makers of modern India, he says He was well read in science and in the Hindu scriptures in his early days.
Okay.
And second, it was also formidable linguists. He was also
That multiple
multiple languages, for example, Sanskrit, Bengali, Marathi,
So he could read
Hindi,
literature from those languages.
and English. Yes, he was able to. See, Sanskrit, of course, Vedic literature, Sanskrit, Bengali, Bankim Chandra Chatterjee and others' writings, and of course, Swami Vivekananda's writings, Marathi, his own mother tongue, Hindi, and English. Of course, he was also a student of a missionary school when he was doing his studies in Nagpur. So therefore, language also played a crucial role, and the passion for spirituality and the passion for nationalist sentiments, patriotism.
So that helped him come out of that grave. Yeah, that helped him in his childhood to come out of, because now your attention goes towards bigger things, because and you realize, yes, loss is a part of life, and there are bigger things to life when you're reading so many biographies, and that too in multiple languages. So your thinking way of thinking is completely different. I really envy him, because I can only read English or Hindi books, but I can't even imagine, because I've heard some of my friends in Maharashtra, they read Marathi works, and they said even Marathi literature is so good. Their parents read a lot of, and I feel very envious. I'm not able to read any other literature, but it makes sense, like he was multilingual and he read a lot, and that drilled nationalism and serving attitude into him.
Yes,
Interesting. So moving on to next question now, as we know, he as you said that he read a lot, and he was very much into multilingual stuff. So Madan Mohan Malviya, okay, one of his biggest influences, as you said, he was the founder of a university, which is still a very very prestigious university. He's a personality himself. We can have a complete podcast on, actually. But still, if you could briefly describe uh, who was Madan Mohan Malviya, why did he influence him so much, who were some other influences on his thinking in his 20s, if you could briefly describe us about these personalities so we can know about them and try to understand the way of thinking Gowalkar got from them.
I think Madan Mohan Malviya is a very important, one of the important nationalist leaders. And he was also founder of Banaras Hindu University in 1916, 1917. And the whole idea of Banaras Hindu University and the objective of Banaras Hindu University was to create patriots, nationalists, and experts in science. And zoology also was one of the very important subjects. So now I'm trying to connect the dot. Why a person was born in Nagpur, studied in a missionary school, got attracted towards zoology.
Yeah, zoology. Because Gowalkarji studied zoology. That was another question. Why did he study zoology, and what happened?
I think he had a passion for nature.
Nature. Ah, no.
See, whenever you read,
Background.
yes, whenever you read his speeches, listen to his speeches and writings, you always understand he speaks with using parables. So for me, it is something which I always try to portray him as an Indian Jesus or Indian Christ, because Christ also was always talking to people with parables.
Yeah.
And later, after completing his MSc in zoology, he also wanted to do research in Madras, what we call today Chennai. But at that point in time, I think what we read from history is his father also retired,
Okay.
some financial constraints. So he had to leave his research project,
Okay, because of finance.
financial austerity. Then he wanted to, do law So he completes his law.
So, was law a decision out of serving attitude and financial reasons, or just out of financial reasons?
And that could also be a passion because he also wanted to understand the legal system of the colonial British, whether it was used or it was misused against Indians by the British.
Why was that? Did he see any unfair treatment of Indians by the British, or did he start questioning the way the society is being run by the British government? Was there any reason behind it?
So he was always critical towards English education.
Okay, he was always critical.
Critical of English education and colonial government and missionary politics.
Okay.
So the most important reason for being critical towards missionary politics was he was skeptical towards missionaries because their broader objective was proselytization, conversion, religious conversion. Even when he was a student of a missionary school, he had to encounter certain conversion attempts. So he had to challenge, the conversion attempts of the school management. So even, in his childhood, he saw, witnessed, and tried to therefore analyze and critically examine the colonial system, education, missionary politics.
So, do you think at that point, like the West says, that there should always be a distance between the church and the state? So, in the British Empire, was that true, or do you think they were working hand in hand?
Yes. If you want to challenge the system, you have to know exactly the flaws of the system, the functioning of the system, the structure of the system. So then only you'll be able to challenge. Because if you don't know who is Golwalkar, I have no right to criticize. Normally people use some messages in WhatsApp and make a sweeping generalization, which I don't agree with. So if you really want to be critical of either Nehru or Mahatma Gandhi or Savarkar or Golwalkar, you have to read. Then of course you can take your position, whether what you think is right or right.
Exactly.
That's important.
Okay, interesting. So basically, now we have come to a place where Golwalkar'S studied zoology first because of his love for nature. And we know how he got over his childhood traumas with the help of religion, spirituality, his mom singing spiritual songs to him, and him being an avid reader in multiple languages. I still envy him. Okay, and now basically now we are getting to the part where he has gone into law because his family was going through financial crisis, and he was questioning the British system as well. So to fight the system, he wanted to understand how the system works. Now after coming into law, so basically coming from zoology to law is a big career change. Okay, and that career change, what gave him the courage? I think we have already answered this kind of thing because he started questioning the society, how the society is being run, and that could be one of the reasons. But do you think, were there any more reasons? Did he have any self-doubt psychologically that will this even work for me or not? Because even in today's time, if someone thinks about a career change, it's a very big step. How did he do that career change successfully, both psychologically and in terms of studying for a long period of time, dedicating to a new career? How did he do this psychologically? What gave him the courage and the persistency to do this?
I think it's a very important question because people who normally think about career option, income, family are those who are, for me, self-centered. But people like Golwalkar, I have never seen him talking about himself, about his financial condition, about his future, about what he'll be eating, what he'll be wearing, where he'll be going. I see him as a selfless figure. Selfless figure. You see, a person who completely rejected the proposal that comes from his own mother getting married, and he rejects the proposal that my motherland is everything for me, not marriage. That speaks louder than words. So his selfless dedication, his passion to serve the motherland and to organize the society and to be critical about certain challenges, issues that India was facing, and Hindu Muslim conflict, caste division, provincial politics, linguistic politics. These were the issues for him to discuss. Tell me now whether he would have found time to discuss himself. Exactly. So that's, I think, very important. We need to learn at least one lesson how from him for.
Yeah, I think selfishness is one thing that binds people into certain career paths because they are only thinking about their. And this is the same thing Krishna tells Arjuna in the battlefield as well. That true Karma Yogi is not the one who worries about the fruit from the tree. True Karma Yogi is the one who worries about the tree, who worries about the whole forest. And I think this is what gave Golwalkarji the courage, as you're saying. Yeah, that is a very hard point to hit on, that especially in today's society. And this is where most people, when they think about career change, they think of selfish reasons. Which career will make me more money or will protect me from artificial intelligence coming in? It's all self protection, animal instincts. And once you get over those animal instincts and think selflessly that which career will help me contribute more in the society, like Gowalkarji did, I think everything
Because
changes.
his ideal figures were people like Swami Vivekananda. That's another important aspect that we need to think. So his selfless determination to do something for the motherland, the people, and to unite them under a broader umbrella as an organic community. Because he was always a person who hardly believed in the word diversity, because diversity means something which you think they are not connected
Separation.
to each other. For example, we are talking to one another. If I talk in a language that you may not be able to understand, then we will say diverse. But at least culturally we are united. Mentally we are united. Intellectually we are united. So this is how he wanted to always create an organic community, a natural community, a natural bond that will unite the people, cutting across languages, castes, communities, regions, gender, and everything.
And do you think zoology might have helped?
Of course, yes, nature, because he always believed in nature. And he must have interacted with animals, flora, fauna, trees.
For the oneness in nature.
And he also stayed in Himachal for some time, and Calcutta, Bengal, and in Vivekananda Ramakrishna Mission Ashram. And of course, his thinking pattern was always centered around nature, harmonious coexistence, peace, love.
No, because these are very interesting points you have put out, because the questions we'll dive into later on will be a little controversial, which sound very contradictory to what you are talking about, the nature of Gowalkarji. So it'll be very interesting to have a conversation on those questions. So again, so now we have covered the youth, we have covered the career change, we have covered the courage he got behind his career change. Again, so something happened after this career change. He practiced law briefly, and as we saw, he met RSS during his college time. He joined RSS briefly as well. We'll come back to RSS, but first let's talk about this interesting phase in his life where he gives up his law practice and he gives up his RSS membership and he goes and joins Ramakrishna Mission. What happened in his life to renounce such prestigious posts of a lawyer, a potential RSS leader, and join Ramakrishna Mission? And how did Ramakrishna Mission actually shaped him as a person? What was his daily routine there? Who were the people who influenced him at that stage of like, why did he make this another radically different decision of giving up everything and joining Ramakrishna Mission?
So I think I already discussed this, because from his childhood onwards he developed the habit of reading scriptures in different languages, identify himself with spiritual gurus, and getting inspiration from leaders like Aurobindo Ghosh and Swami Vivekananda, Swami Dayananda Saraswati. And I think one of the very important reasons why I think he must have chosen the path of spirituality is to renew himself. See, if you look at the histories of all the spiritual gurus, either they live for some time in their life in some mattas, or spiritual places, or the spirit filled places that can enhance their spirit of service. So, those people who seek such places not necessarily are carried away by their whims and fancies, but those people who completely forsake their own selves, own identity, own pleasure, and for the interest of others. And I think it's very important. When he was in Ramakrishna mission, he was, in the day-to-day life was to serve the guru there, and the guru also identified him as a potential devotee.
Okay.
And he has a larger role to play in the society. And therefore he always identified him that you are not for your family and society, you are for the entire Indian society. So the larger role that he was able to identify, as I understand him, comes largely through his quality time, which I would call shaped his intellect, the quest about self and the society, and gave him the vision and mission for the future life.
So can we say Ramakrishna mission was like a spiritual break for him to rediscover himself? Because we can see a similar pattern. Steve Jobs, he took a spiritual break. He came to India to Neem Karoli Baba. Mark Zuckerberg, he took a spiritual break. Bill Gates, he takes a spiritual kind of break twice every year. He goes, shuts himself into a hut, and he just reads and relaxes in nature. I see it as a spiritual break as well. When you're cut off from the selfish human society and you're spending time with oneness. So basically, it helped him revive himself, rediscover himself, and then that was one of the most turning points where he came back stronger and did what he did, which we will discuss next, I guess.
So after, I think it was 3 to 4 years roughly, 1933 to 1937 roughly, if I am not wrong. So after his successful tryst with Ramakrishna mission, a productive and quality time to rediscover himself, he moves to Nagpur. There he starts his real journey of serving people through RSS. It's 1937, and that time the founder was Hedgever.
Yeah.
Hedgever was, finding the role of Golwalkar as a potential candidate that he would be able to lead the organization, because it was not an election kind of thing, it was normally nominated. So, for example, Golwalkar was found to be a trustworthy organizer.
Okay.
Who would be able to transcend the boundaries of caste, creed, class, and political ideologies. It was in this context, Hedgever, in his deathbed, nominates or asks him to take charge of RSS. So this is how Golwalkar becomes
The leader of RSS. So again, the leader, as you said, the reason behind leadership is his organization skills, and his organization skills don't come from a selfish motive where he wants to make himself successful. No, he has a very strong serving attitude, which acts as a source of energy for other people to serve as well. and he's sharing that serving energy with other people in the form of organization, because in the end he's a human being, he has two hands and two legs, he won't be able to accomplish much with himself, but with his energy of serving, flowing that energy down to other people, he can achieve wonders for the society. Okay, very interesting. And again, the spiritual break thing is very interesting as well. Something which our generation, our youth can think of as well. Because when we think of career breaks, we feel scared. We feel that we'll get left behind. We won't have as much savings. But if we take a mindful spiritual break like Golwalkarji did, and like all the entrepreneurs I told you, it can actually help us to come back stronger and make even bigger leaps in our career. Instead of thinking about short term goals like savings, getting behind in career, and because in the end, life is like a marathon. And we need to keep refueling ourselves. And science has proven that spirituality and religion is something that gives you that fuel. So very interesting, and shows a very less traveled path, and very goes against conventional thinking, I would say. Okay, okay, very interesting. So now we are at that stage of Gowalkarji's life where he renounced everything, he got everything, he went to Ramakrishna mission, he revived himself, re-energized himself, and now he came back at RSS, where Headverji, Headgiver, where Headgiver saw his organizational skills, saw his selfless serving attitude, and then he nominated him as a leader on his deathbed.
Absolutely.
My next question is, I've heard that there were other potential candidates as well during that time in the RSS. So, what was the reason behind choosing particularly Gowalkarji? Because what do you think was the biggest reason? Like, because there could be more experienced people than him. There were like, I think even at that time, RSS wasn't a small group. It did have few hundreds, I think, people joined to them. Could there be any particular reason why Gowalkarji stood out?
I think, of course, there were leaders like Ranade and others. But most importantly, at the end of the day, it's not about competing leaders.
So they weren't jealous of each other.
No. See, it was not a political organization.
Exactly. It's our modern thinking that
Yeah.
if one is winning, the other is losing.
That's right.
But for them, no one was winning and no one was losing.
Absolutely. Because they all, I find, had kind of like-minded. See, what is the larger goal? What is the common enemy? That was the decisive
Okay.
thing that we need to remember. It's not that who is looking for a chair of power. So there was no power politics there. It's always something for a nation. How to unite the people, how to serve the masses, how to challenge the colonial government, how to get freedom, how to create what he would call Akhand Bharat. See, it's not that how much money you can make because of your leadership or position, power, privilege. I think that was never a part of the question or discussion.
That's very interesting, because even now, like I have some of my friends who are actually interested in going into politics, and I ask them, like, if you go into politics, will you do anything corrupt? And they openly say yes, we will, because if we are getting into that power, we need to take care of ourselves as well. And now here we are looking at the founding fathers, the makers of India, who were completely selfless, who had no concept of winning and losing amongst them. They weren't comparing each other. So that just shows the contradictory way of thinking that we are losing because of the Western material success that everyone is chasing right now. We are losing our core beliefs, our core feeling of oneness, which Bhagavad Gita talks about as well, which Gowalkarji believes in as well. And from what you say, other BJP, other RSS leaders believe in this as well, that no one is winning or losing. We are all working towards a common goal. That is such a beautiful way to see life. So, coming to the last question, one thing that the youth can learn from Gowalkarji and religiously implement in their own lives to follow their own unique, ambitious path. Today's youth, that they should completely implement and learn from Gowalkarji.
So I think there are many things. Everyone can think of at least reading. The learning comes next. At least let us not be carried away by just one message about any individual and come to a conclusion, wow, this person is known for this. And making sweeping generalization is not at all a good idea. So modern generation need to come out of the mindset of making sweeping generalization, which is very, very important. So he was able to do that. Golwalkar was able to come out of the mindset of making sweeping generalization. He was very, very important person who respected even his hardcore critics like Nehru.
Okay. Only.
He was not anything personal against Nehru. So when I was reading some of his speeches, I find that Golwalkar used to say that Nehru was a very important statesman who has the capability to run the Indian government and its people. But I am not a hero worshipper. I am not a blind follower. I do what my conscience says. So therefore, I am critiquing. So therefore, I think this is one of the very important things, that you may be personally disinclined towards any particular individual. That doesn't mean that you should not be reading the history and the contribution and the role played by that individual in the larger.
So this is one most important thing you feel is that the youth should try to read the other side, the other perspective as well,
That's very important.
and that is what will educate them. That is, it goes in any field. If you look at, I think trading is one of the biggest cancers I feel in the youth right now, that they're leaving their jobs and studies to go into trading without reading the other side of the story. That what is the probability there, what is the probability, and again, material success. Another way, you are just chasing material success, standards set by the West without questioning it, without seeing that West is going through so much mental health crisis right now. America is one of the most obese countries in the world. And how Indian simplicity, even you coming from an agricultural background, how Indian simplicity has always been its strength, its core. And I think this is what I think very important message, that try before chasing anything, before getting into anything, try to see both sides of the coin and make an informed choice in any area of your life, I feel. So I hope you learned something new about leadership and human psychology from this interview. Do let me know in the comments on what do you think of this new series, Mindset of the Greatest Indians. This was an amazing 2 hours talk with Dr. Christu Doss. If you want me to put the whole interview online, do let me know. Dr. Christu Doss has done some amazing work on Indian history, and you can learn so much from his books as well. He has written 3 books. Book number 1, Gandhiji and RSS, The Cultural Grounding of Social Representations. Book number 2, Colonialism and Communalism, Religion and Changing Identities in Modern India. And book number 3, India After the 1857 Revolt, Decolonizing the Mind. Again, amazing work done by Dr. Christu Doss in digging up Indian history and getting you some original truths and facts and the mindset of our old freedom fighters. I hope you found the episode helpful. So if you found this podcast helpful, don't forget to share it with your family and friends. You never know whose life you might change by sharing this podcast. And I hope you learned something new from this episode and you will go and implement the things we discussed. If you enjoyed this episode and got value out of it, then don't forget to subscribe and please leave a review, as that review will help me a lot in my podcast journey. I will see you in my next episode. Till then, take care and take action.